Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Let's Learn Literature with Shruti Singh. So I'm again with a new video for the literature lovers or for the students preparing for their exams. So in this video we will be discussing about Elizabethan poetry and its major characteristics. So let's begin. The poetry of this age represents the spirit of the age and is filled with the spirit of conquest and self glorification, humanism and vigorous imagination, emotional depth, and aerial graces. Now, to be very honest, introduction may be same for every poetry of every age. हर एज की हर पोएट्री का इंट्रोडक्शन लगभग सेम ही है. हर एज की पोएट्री अपनी एज के स्पिरिट को ही रिफ्लेक्ट करती है, टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट. So, now let's move on to the major characteristics of the Elizabethan poetry. So, the very first thing to be discussed may be the high conception of poetry. The poetry was considered as a dignified and elevated form of literary expression. The poetry was not meant for enjoyment only, its function was to provide a profitable enjoyment. Spirit of independence. So, the poetry of this period is remarkable for its spirit of independence. The poets refused to follow the set rules of poetic composition, and as a result, new poetic devices and new linguistic modes of good expression developed. इस एज की जो पोएट्री है इज़ बेस्ट नोन फॉर द स्पिरिट ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस बिकॉज जो पहले से सेट रूल्स थे, जो सेट डिक्शन था, पोएट्स ने रिफ्यूज़ किया वो यूज़ करने से, एंड एज अ रिजल्ट दे डेवलप्ड न्यू पोलिटिकल डिवाइसेस एज वेल एज न्यू लिंग्विस्टिक मोड्स, varied political forms. So all the types of poetry were written in Elizabethan era, may it be elegy, ode, sonnet, etc. Like all the forms of poetries were written. Main divisions of poetry of this era may be, the very first is love poetry. So this type of poetry is characterized by romance, imagination and youthful vigor. Sydney's Astrophel and Stella is one of the best examples of the love poetry of the time. Patriotic poems. So the ardent note of patriotism is the distinctive characteristic of Elizabethan poetry. Brighton's The Baron's War and the Ballad of Agincourt are the remarkable patriotic poems of the time. Now, philosophical poetry. So the fire and strength of people becoming inward resulted in a grave and more thoughtful national life. The tragedies of Shakespeare represent aspects of national life. On wars, on monarchy, and on religion have philosophical learning or philosophical meaning. Satirical poem. So it came into existence after the decline of imaginative vigor towards the end of the Elizabethan reign. Donne's satire is one of the best example of satirical poems of the Elizabethan poetry. Now, it is next characteristic is originality. So the poetic production was not equal to dramatic, but it was of great original beauty. So, as we all know, the age of Elizabethan age is known for the drama or the dramatic literary works. Poetry was not equal to the dramatic one, but it was original. And the passion of poetry was absorbing, and the outcome was beyond expectation. The early Italian and the classical influences were completely absorbed, and the poetry depict the typical British temperament.